Alright folks, so in this video I'm going to discuss with you guys why China discriminates against short people. This is 100% true story. The reason why a lot of people are like this, especially in Asia, is because there are literally policies put in place by the government. And I honestly think these are absolutely ridiculous. For example, one of the most sought after jobs, I would say not just China, in most of Asia, right? If you're looking at China, South Korea, Japan, Philippines, many of these countries, well, for women for sure, is being a flight attendant. You get to travel around the world, has great benefits. You get to retire very, very early, and the amount of money you can make is quite insane. And obviously, there's an extreme screening process, and many of these airlines they have literally high requirements. You know, you can be 5'2", 5'1", and you can be the most attractive Asian girl out there, but they're not gonna pick you just because you're too short. And this is true. And for even for lesser jobs, for example, one of the very common jobs in China, it's for someone who goes through the normal path. You graduate from high school, you get into a good university, you graduate, you become a public servant. It's very common in China. And the industry is so competitive. For example, the flight attendant industry. And what you notice is that a lot of Chinese women, they actually travel to South Korea to get plastic surgery. It's very disturbing. I call it the Black Dahlia surgery. It's where they have their lips opened up a little bit more, so it always looks like they're smiling. So literally, that's what a lot of Asian women do. And this is a true story. That's the extent of what some of these Asian women are willing to do in order to get a job. And even for people who want to get into the military, I'm sure you've seen the news about China's rapid military expansion. And many of these military units, they have height requirements as well. Usually the minimum to get into, whatever you want to be, just a foot soldier, it's around 170 centimeters, which is about 5'7". And depending on the position that you want to be in, some places, for example, in Korea, in the demilitarized zone, there's soldiers from South Korea that's guarding the border there. They're looking right at the North Korean side. All of them have to be at least 175 centimeters, and there are some really ridiculous ones. For example, if you go to Tiananmen Square to watch the ceremony of the erasing of the Chinese flag, which takes place daily, it's always at a different time. They change the time according to the season. So when I visited in the summer, that's when the sun rises up super early. I got a 4 a.m. wake up call in order to watch the raising of the flags before 5 a.m. And the national anthem is played 3 times over the course of 2 minutes. All of those soldiers, that's walking in a straight line, that's carrying the Chinese flag, that's raising the flag there. The minimum height requirement is 190 centimeters, which is 6 foot and 2.7 inches. You heard that correct. 6 foot and 2.7 inches. Like for a Chinese standard, that's literally asking for Shaquille O'Neal coming out of China. And if you don't believe me, for example, if you book a tour to China, just get a tourist visa. If you land at the airport, you're probably either gonna go to Beijing, Shanghai, or Guangzhou, one of these 3 megacities. For example, if you have some questions to ask, if you go to the information desk, you'll notice all of the men and the women are extremely tall. It's because there are height requirements in place. It's typically 180 centimeters or almost 5'11" minimum for men. For women's 170 centimeters. It's not based on meritocracy. It's the equivalent of diversity, equity, inclusion, and affirmative action, the shit they're pulling in the West. So it doesn't matter how qualified you are. You can literally be fluent in 3, 4, 5, 6 languages. You can be the smartest, the most educated person in the world. It doesn't matter how great your work ethic is. If you're not tall enough, they won't put you at those desks there. And the only short people you see at the airport, unfortunately, was those people at the back of the restaurants washing dishes or the janitors. And that's reality. And part of the reason why is why a lot of these Asian women, they want tall men. And this is also a huge contributing factor to why, the number one most common interracial pairing worldwide, it's a white male and Asian female. And if you're wondering why the Chinese government will put in place these extreme policies, and you have to go back almost 200 years. And I mentioned in previous videos that China used to be the number 1 country in the world. Now it's just making a strong comeback. But if you look at back in 1800, China had by far the world's largest GDP. In fact, 1/3 of the world's GDP was generated by China, thanks to the fact that they had a monopoly in tea trade. But everything came crashing down during the century of humiliation. This included the 2 Opium Wars, the Boxer Rebellion, Russia's invasion of outer Manchuria. China would go on to lose part of the Shandong province to the Germans. And then came the Japanese. They first invaded Korea, which was under Chinese control. and they took the island of Taiwan. The entire history of China was nearly annihilated by the Japanese during the Sino-Japanese War. I'm sure many of you guys have seen this famous Chinese cartoon. There was the Eight-Nation Alliance that basically tore China to threads. It was pulled apart piece by piece. And during this time period, the Westerners, they had a new name for China. It was called Dongya Bingfu, or the sick man of East Asia. And one of the main reasons why the Westerners, they always look down on the Chinese was because, well, this is not racist, right? It's just fact. Westerners on average are a few inches taller than ethnic Asians, right? And these Westerners, after coming to China, they will constantly make fun of Chinese people. They say, oh, look at these midgets. That's why to all the people out there who are complaining, who say that, you know what, oh, this is not fair, this is not fair, we need equality, we need diversity, inclusion, and all of this crap. You know what? That's all bullshit. Life is not fair.